How's it going? Now, this is the Amateurist guy speaking to you live from Japan, as usual. Anyway, now today is the 13th of June, Saturday, 2026, and that's just for the record, by the way, in case I get assassinated tomorrow. It's like when I get when somebody runs me over with a car, and all you're going to see tomorrow is my in a pair of sunglasses like this, right? And saying hello to you. So that's just my joke for the day. Anyway, now what am I going to talk about today? Yeah, so today I want to go into talking about wisdom. Yeah, and in particular the repercussion of being self-centered. That is, I have had an epiphany of talking about this today. Now, I'm going to cut the background today and come straight to the point. And the epitome of being self-centered or self-centeredness as a pursuance of unsanctioned freedom that eventually, and I say again, eventually, that leads you to have a perpetually nefarious intent against people, including but not limited to number one, and a murder, number two, and stealing, embezzling, or being a taker, or however you want to call those people, and stealing and taking things from you. And number three, speaking of untruth. And that will sort of obviously lead you to go conflicting with people in your vicinity, if not with the law, and that will righteously reserve you a place in prison. Yeah. So now, just for the sake of argument, let me play the devil's advocate to define give you some ideas of a mentality of being self-centered. It's like you can easily see yourself, indulging in justifying murder and stealing, as long as you believe that you are sitting in the middle of the solar system like a throne, being self-centered, and anything feels true as long as the word comes out between your teeth, and anything spoken by someone else feels like fake, right? By the same or rather a reciprocal logic. The repercussion or the consequence, or however you want to call it, is a perpetually continuous accumulation of ridiculously complicated law that puts a red tape, like a bird cage, on you, on your everyday intricacies and businesses, so much so that it ironically offsets your pursuance of freedom. If you don't think that's ironic, this happens, right? Because the smarter the criminals get, the tighter the law has to become, and it becomes so tight. It reaches a point. It becomes so tight that it eventually defeats the purpose of your pursuance of freedom. That's like an inflation of a law, with the same token of inflation of money. As a term you hear every day on the news. So, if you see a country, say, that has the most intricate and sophisticated law you have ever seen, and you think that they are the edifice or the epitome of squeaky clean civilization, you should know that that is just a reflection of their need in restraining the otherwise and uncivilized population. Well, if that makes any sense to you, now, by the way, I'm not a Christian guy, right? But acting ecumenical from here for the benefit of audience watching this YouTube, you know that there is a story in the Bible where it depicts about the 200 angels who were cast out of heaven for defying God, right? I love taking that as an example. Now, of course, there are many theories, and perhaps there are anecdotal evidence on why and how that happened. But in my way of simplified saying, those 200 angels, right, it just went off, right, being self-centered, and it went on to pursue freedom beyond their perimeter of sanction. Now, I just said sanction, right? Didn't I? In an say abstract or figurative way, but does it make sense to you if I say that it's a sanction by the same token of, say, animals and birds that shouldn't leave the forest, their perimeter, that they were born in if they want to continue being nourished uh, in an existing food chain that was originally designed by God. Mm. In other words, by design, we are never meant to be self-centered, and I believe that is the case for the long term. Now, whether if you are a fallen angel, yeah, listening to this, or someone enjoying a self-centered life at this very moment, there there actually is an undeniable yield or a benefit from being self-centered. Yeah, and I know I see where that comes from, but again, in my figurative way of saying, that is like your luck is on steroid, or it's like it's like the flowers are blooming in a bloody winter, which has an ominous ring to it if you can visualize that in your mind, right? And either way, the benefit is huge. I can tell, yeah, as huge as a fortune, yes, but that is ephemeral nonetheless, and it does not seem to stay where you want it to be. Let alone like the stocks plummeting and the banks and the bankrupting and etc. etc. So and all this in short, which I've been speaking for a good few minutes by now, is that being self-centered is a bane of you, and it's also a bane of the whole civilization. So having said that, right, here is where this talk gets serious. What is an effective way of decimating self-centeredness? Mm. So, well, let us start with recognizing what you are blessed with every day. What you are blessed with every day. So you take a bath, for instance, a bath or shower, whichever you take, once every often, and unless you end up repulsing people away with your bodily stench, yeah. After a week of not bathing, that would happen, and it is not an overstatement to say. It is never an overstatement to say that where there are water and fire, there is civilization, but not the other way around. Never, never the other way around. And they are not something you can create in a meaningful way, meaningful amount, whether if you're rich or poor. You see, secondly, you ought to be less serious about the worldly facades, right? Let alone small improprieties. Yeah. You see, an example I can tell you is, this might sound ridiculous, like a fairy tale, but a drop of water that lives, right, that lives up in the sky, right? It never complains about being, demoted down to the ground, right, ground level when it rains. Yeah. And likewise, whatever profession, you are in, whatever profession you are in that pertains any social or stereotypical stigmatization that is just strictly that of the myopic eyes, right? Myopic minds, I should say. Please, live strongly. Don't let them, don't let them turn you down. Don't let them feel you down. Live strongly, please. And of course, the last but not least, you should be humble, right, before the great power of nature that nobody has a control of in any meaningful way. I mean, you can't kick away a tornado. They can't, unless you're Superman. That doesn't really happen. And once you become less self-centered or even altruistic, if that's the right term, and you are in the right direction, heading towards a perpetual prosperity. Anyway, it's about time for me to go, and I hope I have said it right today. And thank you for your time.